The invitation. The throne hall of the Valerian sovereignty stretched 3 kilometers beneath a dome of crystallized starlight. Chancellor Vexthor stood before the Grand Assembly, his 4 arms folded in contemplation as holographic representatives of 200 civilizations flickered around him. "The motion stands," Vexthor announced, his voice resonating through translation matrices. "We extend council membership to species 7 Alpha 9. The humans of Terra." Diplomat Shervara of the Kelthian ascendancy shifted her serpentine form uncomfortably. "Chancellor, this seems premature. They've barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their longest space station has existed for merely 2 centuries. "Precisely why we must act," countered General Morcath, his crystalline carapace glinting. "They are malleable. Yeah. We can shape them before they become problematic." Vexthor's primary eyes focused on the holographic display showing Earth, a blue marble spinning in the darkness. The humans had been observed for exactly 147 standard cycles since their first crude warp signature was detected. They were violent, yes. Their history was soaked in blood. But they were also small, resource-poor, and insignificant. Perfect. "The Council has always prospered through guidance," Vexthor continued. "We bring emerging species into our fold, show them the civilized way, and in exchange they provide soldiers for our peacekeeping forces and resources from their systems. The humans are no different." "No different." Ambassador Alwes Isandra of the Photonic Collective pulsed with skeptical light patterns. "Have you reviewed their cultural databases? They have over 15,000 distinct languages. They war constantly among themselves. They're fractured, chaotic. Which makes them easy to control," Morcath insisted. "Divided species always fall in line when shown unified power. I've seen it 100 times." The vote was called. Of the 200 civilizations present, 173 voted in favor, 19 voted against, and 8 abstained. The decision was made. 3 months later, the Valerian flagship Eternal Dominion entered Earth's orbit. The vessel dwarfed the moon, its presence causing panic across every human nation. Vexthor watched from the observation deck as primitive missiles were launched, only to be neutralized by the ship's defensive fields. "Establish communication," he ordered. Within hours, representatives from the United Earth Assembly gathered at a hastily prepared location in Geneva. Vexthor descended with his delegation, towering over the assembled humans. He'd chosen his smallest form, only 3 meters tall, to avoid completely overwhelming them. The human leader who stepped forward was a woman named Ambassador Kira Okafor. She was small, dark-skinned, her hair cropped short, and her eyes held something Vexthor hadn't expected, not fear but intense calculation. "Welcome to Earth," Kira said through their newly established translation field. "We've been expecting someone like you." Vexthor's third eye blinked. "Expecting us? We've detected your surveillance drones for 20 years, Kira replied smoothly. "We assumed first contact would come eventually. Though your arrival is more dramatic than our xenobiologists predicted." This gave Vexthor pause, but he recovered quickly. "The Valerian sovereignty extends an offer of council membership. You will have access to our technology, our trade networks, and our protection. In exchange, we ask for cooperation in defense matters and resource sharing." "Essentially, you want soldiers and materials," Kira translated bluntly. "A crude simplification," Vexthor said. "We offer enlightenment. An end to your primitive conflicts. Guidance into the galactic community." Kira glanced at her fellow humans, a mix of scientists, military officers, and political leaders. A man with graying hair and sharp features leaned close to whisper in her ear. This was General Marcus Chin, head of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Initiative. "We need 48 hours to consult our governments," Kira said. "You have 12, Vexthor countered. "The Council does not wait on provincial politics." What Vexthor didn't see was the look that passed between Kira and Marcus. What he didn't hear was the encrypted message that went out to every human government, every military installation, every research facility. Protocol Nightfall is active. Prepare for integration phase 1. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first alien probe was captured in 2157. They'd reverse-engineered what they could, built what they couldn't, and planned for every scenario. The one thing all human strategic thinkers agreed on: any species that made contact would do so from a position of power, not charity. The Council wanted humans for their resources and their willingness to fight. What they didn't understand was that humans had been fighting each other for so long that they'd perfected the art of learning from their enemies. Every nation on Earth had centuries of accumulated strategic knowledge, tactical innovation, and hard-earned lessons written in blood. 12 hours later, Kira returned with Earth's answer. "We accept council membership," she announced. "With conditions." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. "You are in no position to make conditions, young species." Kira smiled, a gesture the Chancellor would later learn to fear. "Perhaps. But if you want our cooperation rather than our resistance, you'll hear our terms. After all, Chancellor, we've read the Council Charter you transmitted. Section 7 clearly states that member species retain sovereignty over internal affairs." That was when Vexthor realized his first miscalculation. He'd assumed humans wouldn't read the fine print. Cultural exchange. The human embassy on Council Station Zenith Prime was deliberately modest. While other species constructed towering monuments of architecture, the Kelthians had built a spiraling garden of bioluminescent plants. The Photonic Collective maintained a building of pure light. Humanity chose a simple 3-story structure with clean lines and minimal ornamentation. "It's almost insulting," Shervara hissed to her aide as she slithered past. "They joined the council and build that?" What she didn't see were the sensor arrays hidden in the foundation, the quantum communication relays disguised as decorative panels, or the reinforced bunker system 3 levels below ground. Humans built to purpose, not for show. Inside, Ambassador Kira Okafor sat across from her new chief of staff, Dr. Amara Osei, a xenoanthropologist who'd spent her career studying alien contact scenarios through historical human parallels. "First impressions?" Kira asked. Amara pulled up holographic displays. "Fascinating. The Council operates on a strict hierarchy. The Valorians have controlled it for 3,000 years, the Kelthians provide scientific advancement, the Morcathian Empire supplies military might, and everyone else falls in line. They've been stable so long they've become complacent." "Exploitable?" "Absolutely. But carefully." Amara highlighted several data points. "Every species here evolved as their planet's apex predator or dominant intelligence. None of them had serious competition. They think linearly, hierarchically. They don't understand redundancy, lateral thinking, or adaptive strategy because they've never needed to." Kira leaned back. "And humans? We evolved alongside countless predators, competing hominid species and later each other. We learned to think like our enemies, to predict, to adapt. We're persistence hunters on a cosmic scale." A chime interrupted them. Kira's aide, Lieutenant James Kowalski, appeared on screen. "Ma'am, you have a visitor. General Morcath requests an audience." "Show him to conference room 3, Kira instructed. Morcath arrived with 2 guards, his crystalline body refracting the room's light into rainbow patterns. He settled onto a specially designed chair, his massive frame making the furniture creak. "Ambassador Okafor," he began, his voice like grinding stones. "I come with an opportunity. The Valerian sovereignty maintains peacekeeping forces across 200 systems. We require fresh recruits. Your species' aggressive nature makes you ideal candidates." "You want human soldiers?" Kira said flatly. "Soldiers, pilots, tactical officers. We offer training in Council military doctrine, access to standard equipment, and payment in Council credits. Your people would gain valuable experience." Kira appeared to consider this. "What's the current deployment look like?" Morcath brought up tactical displays. "We have ongoing operations in the Outer Rim. Pirate suppression mostly. Low-intensity conflicts. Perfect for breaking in new recruits. And command structure? Human units would serve under Morcathian officers, naturally. You're too inexperienced for independent command." Kira nodded slowly. "I'll need to consult with our military leadership. Can you provide detailed information on equipment, training protocols, and deployment zones?" "Of course." Morcath transmitted the data, pleased with himself. "The Council appreciates cooperative species, Ambassador. This will serve you well." After he left, James whistled low. "He basically wants cannon fodder." "He thinks he does," Kira corrected. "Amara, analysis?" The xenoanthropologist was already working. "Their military doctrine is 3,000 years old. They rely on superior technology and overwhelming force. Standard formations, predictable tactics, minimal innovation. They've won so consistently that they've stopped evolving strategically. Get this to General Chen immediately," Kira ordered. "And to our Special Projects Division." On Earth, Marcus Chen received the data with grim satisfaction. His team had been waiting for this. The Council's military protocols, equipment specifications, tactical deployments, it was a treasure trove of intelligence. He called an emergency meeting of the Joint Chiefs. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've just been given the keys to the kingdom. They want to train our people in their doctrine. What they don't realize is that every human soldier they train becomes an intelligence asset. Admiral Jennifer Park of the Space Navy leaned forward. What are you thinking, Marcus? We send them exactly what they want. Young, aggressive recruits. But we also send our best and brightest embedded among them. We learn everything, their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. And we start developing counters. That's a long game, noted General Yuki Tanaka. The only game worth playing, Marcus replied. The Council has been stable for millennia. They don't understand insurgency, asymmetric warfare, or adaptive tactics because they've never faced them. We'll smile, nod, and learn everything we can. And if they ever threaten Earth. He didn't need to finish. Every person in that room understood. Humanity hadn't survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near-extinction events by being passive. They survived by being unkillable. Back on Zenith Prime, Kira received another visitor, Ambassador Elwes Sandra of the Photonic Collective. The being of pure light pulsed with curious patterns. I must admit, Ambassador Okafor, your species confuses me. You accept every demand with minimal resistance. Why? Kira smiled. We're new here, Ambassador. We have everything to learn and nothing to prove. Why wouldn't we cooperate? After Elwes Sandra left, Amara emerged from the shadows. You're making them underestimate us. I'm letting them think they understand us, Kira corrected. There's a difference. They see cooperative primitives. They don't see what we really are. Which is? Survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes. The first deployment. The UESC Persistence, United Earth Space Corps, broke from warp at the edge of the Talos system, joining a fleet of Morcathian warships. Captain Devon Reeves stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar military vessel, watching as his crew of 200 operated with practiced efficiency. All systems nominal, reported Commander Sanvi Sharma from Tactical. Weapons charged, shields at full capacity. The design of the Persistence had been carefully calculated. On the surface, it appeared to be a standard Council frigate. Humanity had used their provided schematics and technology grants. What the Council didn't know was that human engineers had stripped down, analyzed, and rebuilt every system with improvements. Incoming transmission from the flagship, announced Communications Officer David Ortega. A holographic Morcathian officer appeared, his crystalline form imposing even in miniature. Human vessel, this is Commander Zaxthar of the Unbreakable Will. You will maintain formation position 7 rear guard. Follow standard engagement protocols. Do not deviate. Understood, Commander, Devon replied crisply. The channel closed. Sanvi turned to Devon with a raised eyebrow. Rear guard? We're babysitting the supply ships. Exactly where I want to be, Devon said quietly. Best position to observe without being in the way. Ensign Ortega, make sure you're recording everything. Every tactical decision, every formation change, every communication. Already on it, sir. The mission was straightforward. Eliminate a pirate base in the Talos asteroid belt. The Morcathian fleet consisted of 6 dreadnoughts, 20 cruisers and 50 frigates. Overwhelming force for what intelligence suggested was a handful of outdated raider ships. They don't believe in proportional response, noted Lieutenant Kenji Sato from the weapons station. Why would they? Devon replied. When you have unlimited resources and technological superiority, you can afford to overcommit. They're not fighting to win efficiently. They're demonstrating power. The battle, when it came, was brutally one-sided. The Morcathians advanced in perfect geometric formation, their ships maintaining exact spacing. The pirates, desperate beings in retrofitted cargo haulers, tried hit-and-run tactics, but Council sensors tracked them easily. Overwhelming firepower reduced their base to atoms within minutes. Devon watched the entire engagement, his tactical mind cataloging every detail. The Morcathians never broke formation. They never adapted to enemy maneuvers. They simply overwhelmed through superior firepower. It was effective but predictable. That's their entire strategy, Sanvi whispered. See enemy. Shoot enemy with bigger guns. Repeat. Works well when you're the biggest fish, Devon agreed. But it's not warfare. It's pest control. After the battle, Commander Zaxthar held a fleet briefing. Devon attended via hologram, standing among dozens of Council officers. Satisfactory operation, Zaxthar declared. The pirates are eliminated. All vessels performed adequately. The human ship did not interfere, which is appreciated. Devon bit back a response. Around him, other Council officers were already celebrating, already considering the mission complete. None of them mentioned the 3 pirates who'd escaped during the initial assault. None of them considered that survivors would spread word of council tactics. Back aboard the Persistence, Devon called a private meeting with his senior staff. "Observations?" he asked. "Their sensor technology is incredible," Sanvi reported. "But they use it passively. They never considered jamming, false signatures, or electronic warfare. It didn't occur to them. Their weapons are powerful but inflexible," Kenji added. "Fixed firing arcs, predictable charge times. No point defense to speak of. They rely entirely on shields." Commander Sharma, the ship's executive officer, pulled up tactical displays. "Their formation doctrine hasn't changed in centuries. I cross-referenced their attack patterns with historical council engagements. Identical approach every time." Devon nodded slowly. "They've forgotten that warfare is about adaptation. They have a hammer and they've been fortunate enough that everything looks like a nail. But what happens when they face something that doesn't?" "We happened," Sanvi said with a slight smile. Over the next 6 months, the Persistence participated in a dozen similar operations. Each time, Devon's crew observed, recorded, and analyzed. Each time they fed information back to Earth, where military strategists began developing comprehensive counter-tactics. But Devon did something else too. He began building relationships. After one particularly dull patrol, he invited Commander Zax Thar aboard the Persistence for what humans called a diplomatic dinner. The Morcathian was initially skeptical but accepted out of curiosity. Devon had his crew prepare a meal that combined human culinary arts with elements compatible with Morcathian biochemistry. The result impressed Zax Thar enough that his crystalline structure actually shifted to a warmer hue, a sign of pleasure. "Your species has interesting customs," Zax Thar admitted. "This? Socializing over sustenance. It's inefficient but strangely satisfying. We find that building personal connections improves unit cohesion," Devon explained. "Tell me, Commander, you've served the Council for how long?" 247 standard cycles, Zax Thar said with pride. "Then you've seen a lot of action. I'd love to hear about your experiences. We're so new to space combat, any wisdom you could share would be invaluable." Flattery and genuine interest worked wonders. Over the next hours, Zax Thar talked extensively about Council military history, tactics, and doctrine. He never realized he was being debriefed. This became Devon's pattern. Build rapport. Ask questions. Listen carefully. Every Council officer loved talking about their achievements, their superiority, their long history. None of them thought to question why this human captain was so eager to learn. Meanwhile, aboard every other human vessel scattered throughout Council space, other captains were doing the same thing. Learning. Adapting. Preparing. On Earth, General Marcus Chin reviewed the accumulated intelligence with his staff. "They're teaching us everything we need to know to beat them." "Are we really planning for that scenario?" Admiral Park asked carefully. "I'm planning for every scenario," Marcus replied. "That's what humans do." Political maneuvers. Council Station Zenith Prime orbited an artificial star, a monument to Valerian engineering prowess. In its Grand Council chambers, Ambassador Kira Okafor was learning the intricate dance of galactic politics. "The key to Council influence," explained Ambassador Elwes Asandra during one of their private conversations, "is understanding the web of obligations. The Valorians provide technology. The Kelthians offer scientific expertise. The Morcathians ensure military security. Everyone else trades in smaller currencies, resources, strategic locations, votes." "And humans?" Kira asked. "What's our currency?" Elwes Asandra's light patterns shifted to something resembling amusement. "You're still establishing that. Most new species offer raw materials or military conscripts. The Council expects the same from you." But Kira had other plans. She'd been studying Council economics for months, and she'd noticed something interesting. The entire system was efficient but inflexible. Trade routes hadn't changed in centuries. Resource allocation followed ancient patterns. Innovation was minimal because the system worked. Humanity's advantage was that Earth's economy had always been chaotic, competitive, and adaptive. Humans understood market disruption. Kira began small. She approached Ambassador Thelnox of the Rimward Collective, a minor species that provided rare minerals to the Council in exchange for protection. "Ambassador," Kira began, "I've been reviewing mineral extraction data. Your current yields seem low for the equipment you're using." Thelnox's feathered crest flattened, a sign of defensive. "We use Council standard mining technology. The yields are acceptable. Acceptable, yes. But what if I told you Earth has developed techniques that could increase your output by 30% using the same equipment? That got the ambassador's attention. That's how. We've had to do more with less for our entire history, Kira explained. Efficiency innovations. Process optimizations. Let me send you some technical documentation. No charge. Consider it a gesture of goodwill between minor species. Thelnox was skeptical but accepted. 3 months later, the Rimward Collective's mineral exports had increased by 28%. Suddenly, they had leverage they'd never possessed before. Word spread quietly among the lesser council members. The humans had something valuable, practical knowledge that improved existing systems. Kira leveraged this into influence. She began hosting informal gatherings, human networking events, where ambassadors from minor species could meet, share concerns, and discuss common interests. The Valerian leadership viewed these gatherings as quaint primitives playing at politics. They didn't realize Kira was building a coalition. Meanwhile, humanity's scientific delegation was making waves. Dr. Amara Osei had been assigned to the Council Science Directorate, where she worked alongside the galaxy's greatest minds. The Kelthian chief scientist, Velcora, initially dismissed Amara as a curiosity. Your species has barely mastered fusion power. What could you possibly contribute? Amara smiled patiently. We bring a fresh perspective. For instance, I've been reviewing your work on quantum entanglement communications. Brilliant foundation, but you're approaching the coherence problem from a single angle. Because that's the correct angle, Velcora insisted. Maybe. But humans have a saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Skin it? What? Never mind. Explain. Amara pulled up her research. You're trying to maintain coherence through environmental isolation. Perfect control. But what if instead of fighting quantum decoherence we work with it? Use controlled chaos to our advantage. Velcora's serpentine form coiled in concentration as she studied Amara's equations. This is unconventional. Possibly brilliant. Possibly insane. In my experience, those aren't mutually exclusive. They work together for weeks, combining Kelthian theoretical precision with human lateral thinking. The result was a breakthrough in communication technology that improved range by 40%. Suddenly, the chief scientist of the council was calling Amara a colleague. But not everyone was pleased with humanity's growing influence. In the Valerian High Command, Chancellor Vex Thor met with his inner circle. The humans are becoming problematic, warned Minister Kexlar, his auxiliary eyes narrowing. They've been council members for barely a standard cycle, yet they're forming alliances, influencing research directions, and their military units are requesting independent commands. They're clever, Shirvara admitted. More clever than we anticipated. Cleverness can be managed, Vex Thor stated. We simply limit their access, restrict their technology grants, assign their military units to more dangerous deployments, remind them of their place. General Morcath was less certain. My commanders report that human tactical officers are effective. Unorthodox but effective. Perhaps we're approaching this wrong. Are you suggesting we grant primitives more power? Kexlar demanded. I'm suggesting we recognize that these primitives learn faster than any species I've encountered, Morcath replied. Every battle scenario we present they solve. Every simulation they pass. Their Captain Reeves scored higher on our tactical assessment than any officer in recent memory. Because he thinks like a pirate, Shirvara hissed. No honor, no tradition, just ruthless efficiency. Exactly, Morcath said quietly. Which makes him dangerous. Vex Thor considered this. The council had maintained stability for 3 millennia through careful management of power dynamics. New species were integrated slowly, kept dependent on council resources and protection. But humans weren't following the pattern. We need to test them, he decided. Give them something they want, independence, responsibility, but attach conditions that ensure their dependence. Minister Kexlar, draft a proposal for humanity to establish a council outpost in a frontier sector. Somewhere remote, dangerous, with minimal support. You want them to fail, Shirvara realized. I want them to understand their limitations, Vex Thor corrected. And I want them to realize they need us more than we need them. Back at the human embassy, Kira received the proposal with carefully controlled excitement. A frontier outpost. Independent command. Direct control over a sector. It was exactly what she'd been maneuvering toward. It's a trap, James Kowalski warned. They're setting us up to fail. Probably, Kira agreed. which is why we're going to succeed beyond their wildest expectations. Contact General Chin. Tell him we need our best people for this. And get me everything we have on the frontier sectors. What are you planning? To show the council what humans really are, Kira said. We're not their subordinates. We're not their students. We're their equals. We just needed them to give us the opportunity to prove it. The Frontier Gambit. The Aldra sector lay at the furthest edge of council space, a region of contested systems, pirate havens, and unexplored nebulae. It was here that humanity would establish its first independent command, a testing ground that the council expected would humble the upstart species. Colonel Sarah Voss arrived aboard the Forward Unto Dawn, humanity's newest deep space cruiser, with a hand-picked crew of 3,000 and a mandate that was deliberately vague: establish council authority. The station humanity inherited was a derelict Valerian outpost that had been abandoned for 2 decades. Systems were offline, hull breaches dotted the structure, and the surrounding space was infested with raiders who saw the sector as their personal hunting ground. Home sweet home, muttered Chief Engineer Luis Ramirez as their shuttles approached. Sarah stood in the command shuttle, studying the tactical display. 17 pirate clans operated in the sector. 3 contested systems with valuable resources. No council presence for 6,000 light-years. And her orders were to maintain peace and stability. They expect us to fail, noted Commander Alexei Volkov, her second-in-command. They're counting on it, Sarah agreed. Which gives us an advantage. Low expectations. The first month was brutal. Sarah's crew worked around the clock to restore the station, renamed Outpost Terra Nova. They repaired life support, restored weapons systems, and established a defensive perimeter, all while fending off probing attacks from curious pirates. But Sarah didn't just defend. She studied. Each pirate attack was recorded, analyzed, and cataloged. She identified 17 distinct raider groups, mapped their territories, tracked their supply lines, and studied their tactics. What she discovered was fascinating. The pirates weren't unified. They fought each other as often as they attacked council assets. Classic fragmented insurgency, she told her staff during a strategy meeting. Multiple factions with competing interests. The council tried to suppress them through force, which just made them scatter and regroup. But what if we tried something different? You want to negotiate with pirates? Alexei asked skeptically. I want to understand them. Pirates aren't mindless thugs. They're people who exist outside the council's system. Some are criminals, yes. But some are refugees, dissidents, or just people who couldn't make it within council society. What if we offered alternatives? That's not council doctrine, warned Tactical Officer Lieutenant Yuki Chen. Then it's a good thing we're writing our own doctrine, Sarah replied. She started with the smallest pirate clan, the Driftwalkers, led by a being named Raxel. Sarah sent an encrypted message requesting a meeting. The response was predictably hostile, but she persisted. Finally, Raxel agreed to meet at a neutral location, a derelict cargo hauler floating in unclaimed space. Sarah arrived with a minimal security detail. Raxel, a 4-armed creature with scarred chitin, greeted her with weapons drawn. Give me one reason not to space you, human. Because I'm offering you something better than raiding, Sarah replied calmly. Employment. Raxel's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. The council wants to hire pirates? This is a trick. Not the council. Humanity. We're establishing operations in this sector. We need people who know the territory, who understand the local dynamics. You and your crew fit that profile. And in exchange? Legitimate work. Fair pay. Protection. You keep your ship, your autonomy. You just work with us instead of against us. Why should I trust humans? Sarah leaned forward. Because unlike the council, we understand that the universe isn't black and white. You're not pirates because you're evil. You're pirates because it was your best option. I'm offering you a better one. Help us map the sector. Share intelligence on the other clans. In return, you get council amnesty and commercial licensing. Raxel was silent for a long moment. You're serious. Completely. I've reviewed your raiding history. You target cargo ships but avoid casualties. You have a code. That's someone I can work with. It took 3 more meetings, but eventually Raxel agreed. The Driftwalkers became humanity's first local allies, providing crucial intelligence on sector dynamics. Sarah used this information strategically. She identified which pirate clans were truly predatory and which were simply trying to survive outside council control. She offered the latter amnesty and opportunities. The former, she hunted relentlessly using the intelligence Raxel provided. Within 6 months, 7 pirate clans had accepted her terms. The remaining 10 were isolated, their supply lines disrupted, their safe havens compromised. When Sarah finally moved against them, it was with overwhelming force and perfect intelligence. The council observers watching from afar were stunned. The frontier sector, which had been considered ungovernable for decades, was stabilizing under human administration. Chancellor Vex Thor received the reports with growing concern. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "By breaking every established protocol," Shirvara reported. "They're negotiating with criminals, offering amnesty, incorporating pirates into their security structure. It's completely irregular, yet effective," General Morcath noted. "Our forces spent decades trying to suppress the raiders through military action. The humans pacified the sector in 6 months by understanding the underlying dynamics. It sets a dangerous precedent," Vex Thor argued. "If other species see that human methods work better than council doctrine, then perhaps council doctrine needs examination," Morcath interrupted. 3,000 years of stability may have made us rigid, Chancellor. Back on Outpost Terra Nova, Sarah received a transmission from Ambassador Kira. "The council is impressed and threatened in equal measure," Kira reported. "You've exceeded their expectations, which means they're going to test you harder. Expect challenges." "Let them come," Sarah replied. "We've proven we can handle independence. Now we prove we can handle anything they throw at us." What neither Sarah nor Kira knew was that the real test was already approaching. In the uncharted regions beyond the Aldris sector, something was stirring. An enemy that had been observing council space for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike. And humanity's success in the frontier had just drawn their attention. The Crucible. The attack came without warning. Outpost Terra Nova sensors detected them first, 12 massive vessels dropping out of warp at the sector's edge. Their configuration matched nothing in council databases. Their energy signatures were off the scale. "Battle stations." Colonel Sarah Voss ordered as alarms blared throughout the station. "Get me identification on those vessels." "Negative ID," reported sensor operator Ensign Marcus Webb. "No matches to any known species. They're big, ma'am. Each one is twice the size of a council dreadnought." "Incoming transmission," announced communications. The view screen flickered to life, showing a being unlike anything humanity had encountered. It was massive, with 6 limbs, bioluminescent patterns across its carapace, and eyes that seemed to look through rather than at the camera. "I am Sovereign Krothzar of the Drevnai Collective," the being announced in perfect galactic standard. "This sector is now under our control. Surrender your station or be destroyed. You have 1 rotation to comply." The transmission ended. Sarah's crew looked to her, fear visible on many faces. Alexei pulled up tactical data. "Those ships have weapons signatures beyond anything we've seen. Our entire fleet couldn't scratch them." "How did they get here?" Sarah demanded. "The council has sensor networks." "They bypassed them," interrupted Yuki Chin. "Look at their approach vector. They came through the nebula gaps, using gravity wells to mask their warp signatures. They've been planning this for a long time." Sarah made a decision. "Send encrypted burst transmission to Council Command and Earth. Tell them what we're facing. Then get me Ambassador Kira." The emergency council session was chaos. Representatives from 200 species argued simultaneously while Chancellor Vex Thor tried to maintain order. "The Drevnai were myths," shouted Ambassador Thelnox. "Ancient stories. They can't actually exist." "They exist," Ambassador Kira stated coldly, broadcasting the tactical data from Terra Nova. "And they're about to destroy our outpost unless we act. The Council will respond with appropriate force," Vex Thor announced. "General Morcath, assemble a fleet." "It'll take 3 weeks to mobilize and position forces," Morcath interrupted. "The humans have 1 rotation. 26 standard hours. Then we sacrifice the outpost," Minister Kexlar said bluntly. "It's regrettable, but the humans knew the risks of frontier duty." The chamber erupted in arguments. Kira watched, calculating. The council was paralyzed by protocol, by committee, by their carefully maintained stability. They couldn't move fast enough to matter. But humans could. She opened a private channel to Earth. "General Chin, we need everything. Now." On Earth, Marcus Chin had been preparing for this moment since humanity joined the council. He'd positioned assets, stockpiled resources, and built a reserve fleet using every piece of intelligence gathered from council ships. "Execute Protocol Olympus," he ordered. Across human space, ships began moving. Not just military vessels but converted civilian craft, research ships fitted with weapons and experimental vessels built in secret shipyards. Every able ship humanity could muster. They had 24 hours to reach the Aldris sector. It was impossible. Humans did it anyway. Back at Outpost Terra Nova, Sarah wasn't waiting for rescue. She was preparing for war. The Drevnai expect us to act like the Council, she told her senior staff. Conventional tactics, predictable formations. We're not going to give them that. Ma'am, we're outnumbered and outgunned, Alexei protested. Which is why we're not fighting them directly. We're going to make them regret choosing this sector. Luis, status on the modifications. Chief Engineer Ramirez grinned. The station's reactor can be overloaded. We've rigged it as a massive bomb. It'll take out anything within 5,000 kilometers. Good. Yuki, what about the asteroids? We've seeded the belt with remote detonated mines. Not enough to destroy their ships, but enough to disrupt their formations. Sarah pulled up a tactical display. The Drevnai are powerful but they're confident. Overconfident. They gave us a full rotation because they don't consider us a threat. That's their first mistake. Their second is that they don't know humans. She outlined her plan. It was desperate, risky, and violated every Council combat doctrine. It was also brilliant. When the Drevnai fleet advanced on Terra Nova at the deadline, they found the station apparently abandoned. Life signs minimal, defenses offline, a perfect target. Sovereign Krothzar surveyed the station with satisfaction. The humans fled. Disappointing. Begin salvage operations. That's when the asteroid belt erupted. Hundreds of precisely placed mines detonated simultaneously, sending massive chunks of rock hurtling into the Drevnai formation. The enemy shields absorbed the impacts easily, but the debris cloud disrupted their sensor arrays. In that moment of confusion, humanity struck. Not from Terra Nova but from every angle. Sarah had dispersed her entire fleet into the asteroid belt, using the chaos as cover. Every ship, every shuttle, every piece of space-worthy hardware humanity had in the sector launched simultaneously. They didn't try to fight the Drevnai ships directly. Instead, they targeted sensors, communication arrays, engine manifolds, vulnerable systems. It was death by 1,000 cuts, executed with the precision of a species that had studied Council technology for 2 years. The Drevnai, accustomed to conventional warfare, were caught off guard. They tried to reorganize to bring their superior firepower to bear, but humanity's ships were too small, too fast, too unpredictable. And then Earth's reinforcements arrived. 200 human vessels dropped out of warp at the system's edge. They were mismatched, some barely armed, but they moved with coordinated purpose. General Marcus Chen broadcast on all frequencies, "Attention Drevnai forces. You've just made a critical error. You attacked humans. We don't surrender. We don't retreat. We endure. And we remember." The battle that followed would be studied for generations. A new era. The Battle of Aldris Sector lasted 14 hours. Humanity didn't win through superior firepower. The Drevnai vessels were indeed more powerful. They won through tactics the Drevnai had never encountered: coordinated swarm attacks, false retreats, sacrificial decoys, and aggressive boarding actions. When Colonel Sarah Voss personally led a strike team onto the Drevnai flagship using a captured shuttle and breached their command deck, Sovereign Krothzar finally understood what made humans dangerous. "You're willing to die," the Sovereign said, surrounded by human marines, "just to hurt us." "No," Sarah corrected, her weapon trained on him. "We're willing to die to protect what's ours. There's a difference. Now order your fleet to stand down, or I demonstrate the difference between fighting to win and fighting because you have nothing left to lose." Krothzar, facing an opponent who met his eyes without fear, made a calculated decision. He signaled retreat. The Drevnai fleet withdrew, battered and shocked. They'd lost 3 vessels, had 4 more heavily damaged, and for the first time in their species' military history, they'd been boarded and their commander held at gunpoint. Humanity lost 47 ships and 3,000 personnel. But they held the sector. The news reached Council space like a shockwave. In the Grand Assembly, Chancellor Vex Thor stood before representations of 200 civilizations and acknowledged what they all now understood: the Council owes humanity a debt. They held the frontier when we could not respond. They defeated an enemy we thought was myth. And they did it with resourcefulness, courage, and tactics we never imagined. Ambassador Kira Okafor stood to address the Assembly. Gone was the deferent newcomer. In her place stood a representative of a species that had proven itself in the crucible. "The Drevnai will return," Kira stated. "They were probing Council strength and they found us wanting. Our defense relied on technological superiority and overwhelming force. But the Drevnai matched our technology and would have overwhelmed our forces. We need to adapt. You presume to lecture the council on military matters? Minister Kexlar challenged. I presume to share lessons bought with human blood, Kira shot back. The council has been stable for 3 millennia. That stability has made you predictable. The Drevnai counted on that. So did the pirates before we pacified the frontier. So did everyone who thought humanity would be easy to control when you invited us to join. The chamber fell silent. You see us as primitive, Kira continued. Aggressive, chaotic. You're right. We are all those things. We're also adaptable, innovative, and unkillable. Humanity survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. We've been preparing for the worst our entire existence. That's what makes us valuable, not as your soldiers or your servants but as your partners. Ambassador Alwysandra pulsed with light. What exactly are you proposing? A military reform, Kira said. Humanity will share our tactical knowledge, our adaptive strategies, our experience in asymmetric warfare. In exchange, we want full council partnership, not junior membership, but equal status in military and political decisions. That's unprecedented. Shervara hissed. So is defeating the Drevnai, General Morcath noted. The human commander is correct. We've grown complacent. If the Drevnai return in force, traditional council tactics will fail. We need innovation. The vote was closer than it should have been, but humanity's proposals passed. Over the following months, the council military underwent its first major reorganization in 1,000 years. Human tactical officers were integrated into council fleets, not as subordinates but as strategic advisors. Combat doctrines were updated to include adaptive tactics, decentralized command structures, and unconventional warfare principles. The changes were resisted by traditionalists but championed by those who'd seen the battle recordings. On Earth, the victory was celebrated, but General Marcus Chen remained cautious. We've proven we belong at the table, he told his staff. But we've also painted a target on ourselves. The Drevnai won't forget this. Neither will council factions who see us as a threat to their power. So what do we do? Admiral Park asked. What we've always done, Marcus replied. We prepare. We learn. We adapt. And we make damn sure that if anyone comes for us, they regret it. In the Aldra sector, Colonel Sarah Voss stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt outpost Terra Nova, watching construction crews work on expanding the facility. The frontier was no longer a punishment posting, it was humanity's foothold in council space. Raxol, the former pirate turned security contractor, joined her. Your people are strange, Colonel. You turned a death trap into a fortress. We're good at making the most of bad situations, Sarah replied. It's practically our species' defining trait. The council fears you now, Raxol observed. Some hate you for it. Let them. Fear and respect often look the same from a distance. As long as they don't dismiss us, we can work with fear. Back on Council Station Zenith Prime, Ambassador Kira met privately with Chancellor Vexthor. The relationship had evolved from patron and subordinate to something more complex. You played us, Vexthor said without accusation. From the beginning you never intended to be junior partners. No, Kira admitted. We intended to earn our place. There's a difference. You invited us to the council thinking we'd be easy to manage. You were right that we were small, resource-poor, and technologically behind. But you made one critical miscalculation. Which was? You assumed that because we were behind we'd stay behind. Humanity doesn't work that way. We learn. We adapt. We overcome. It's what we do. You gave us access to your technology, your tactics, your knowledge, thinking it would make us dependent. Instead, it gave us the tools to become your equals. Vexthor's multiple eyes studied her. And now we build something better together. The council needs fresh perspectives. The galaxy is bigger and more dangerous than any of us realized. The Drevnai proved that. Together, truly together as partners, we might actually survive what's coming. You think the Drevnai will return? I know they will. And when they do, humanity will stand with the council. Not behind you. Beside you. Because that's what partners do. Vexthor considered this for a long moment, then extended his primary hand. Then let us be partners, Ambassador Okafor. And may the galaxy have mercy on our enemies. Kira shook his hand, sealing an alliance that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had come to the stars as newcomers. They'd been tested, underestimated, and challenged. And through it all, they'd proven the one truth that would echo through the cosmos. Never bet against humanity. It was the council's greatest miscalculation. It wouldn't be their last, but it would be their most important. Because in learning to respect humans, they learned to adapt. And in learning to adapt, they might just survive what was coming.